What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first mock draft of the season. A couple bits of housekeeping before we hop in here. Of course, please do hit that like button in honor of the first mock draft of the season. Also, a reminder, if you enjoy my draft content, there will be plenty here on YouTube. Mock drafts, positional rankings, just did my quarterbacks yesterday, so make sure you check that out. But if you want the full draft insider package, including film breakdowns, my full draft board with grades on every player in the class, as well as top 10 full profiles, just like this one right here on Joe Burrow, you can get all of that on my Patreon, so go check that out. And then as far as this video is concerned, as always, this is a what I would do mock draft. So not trying to predict exactly what will happen. This is me taking the seat of the GM of all 32 teams, trying to improve every team, make the best decision for your team. And of course, it will include trades. And this being the first mock draft of the season, I obviously have a lot of player evaluations still left to do. Have a pretty good feel for the top 32 at the moment, but of course there will be players that enter the first round of the mock draft as we do more and more of these leading up to the draft, and there will be players that fall out of the first round. So let's hop in, starting with the number one pick. No confusion here, Joe Burrow. Really don't need to break that one down. Time to move on from Andy Dalton, and Joe Burrow certainly earned the right to be the number one pick. If you want to hear me talk more about Joe Burrow, go check out my quarterback rankings video yesterday. Number two, again, pretty easy here. Chase Young to the Washington Redskins. And the second this team hired Ron Rivera, all of a sudden my mind started clicking, almost kind of similarly to how I felt about the 49ers when I first watched Kyler Murray and noticed that Nick Bosa would be falling to them. Now, the Redskins don't have the offense to go and make a Super Bowl run next year, but I do think that defense could have a crazy turnaround next year with Chase Young. Maybe Rivera can get Montez Sweat to try a little bit. You get Reuben Foster back. Could still use a piece or two in that secondary, but I do think the Redskins are going to be a very competitive team if they competed for the NFC East next year with the addition of Chase Young. I wouldn't say it's the most surprising thing. Number three, the Detroit Lions. I struggled with this one between a pass rusher and a coverage player. I do think Matt Patricia loves to follow Bill Belichick, and Belichick really proved this year that you can have a top defense in 2019, 2020 with an elite coverage unit, and that is why I'm going to pick Jeffrey Okudah here. Now, I get it. They got Darius Slay, Coleman in the slot. You've got Amani Oruwariye, a bit of a sleeper corner from last year, but hard to really rely on Oruwariye. And frankly, Darius Slay, who's been very fed up with the Lions and that contract situation. You put Jeffrey Okudah in here, inside that secondary, all of a sudden you're talking about the Detroit Lions as an elite secondary. Maybe a little better health next year up front, and this could be a really good defense next year. So we're going to go with Jeffrey Okudah. Definitely thought about AJ Espinoza there as well. And then the New York Giants at number 4. Dave Gettleman's going to turn in the card. He's going to pick Vince Wilfork, a young, inspiring, athletic defensive tackle. Can really contribute as a pass rusher and help this pass defense because we know that's what Dave Gettleman really wants to do. Obviously a joke. We're going to be taking Andrew Thomas here. We're not Dave Gettleman. We are going to fix this offensive line up. It's not the worst offensive line in the NFL, but Nate Solder, a bit of a liability and not getting any younger. Same can be said about Remmers at right tackle. So we're going to go ahead and grab Andrew Thomas. I would plug him at left tackle and then move Solder over to right. Thomas, to me, is the most refined tackle coming out, one of the better tackle prospects we've seen in a while. So pretty easy pick there for me for the Giants, especially given Daniel Jones' kind of lack of ability to sense pressure and his fumbling problems could certainly help contribute to some growth there. All right, Miami at number 5. A lot of mocks have Tua here. I've got injury concerns about Tua, as I've said in my quarterback video. I do like Tua. If it weren't for the injury stuff, he would be my number 2 quarterback and definitely a top 10 grade. But I'm not going to put Tua behind that offensive line that was the worst in the NFL last year, quite frankly, by a country mile. I'm going to take Jedrick Wills here out of Alabama. Probably the best run blocker in this class. He's just a freak athlete. tackle a huge issue for the Dolphins, especially after trading away Laramie Tunsil. So we're going to go ahead and start patching up that offensive line with Jedrick Wills. I know a lot of Dolphins fans would be pretty happy about that, while others will be pretty ticked I didn't take Tua. But again, this is what I would do. Number 6, the LA Chargers. We're going to grab Derrick Brown, patch up that interior defensive line. They tried to do it with a similar player in Jerry Tillery. Tillery just, quite frankly, probably wasn't a first-round talent and had an incredibly disappointing season. So this puts a little less pressure on Tillery. He can become more of a developmental guy. Derrick Brown ready to go. He is somewhere in the Kenny Clark, Chris Jones range of dominant interior big lineman. So a big need and a great fit there for the Chargers. Carolina Panthers at number 7. Yeah, you've got quarterback question marks. Luke Kuechly just retired. I've been saying this Panthers team is due for a rebuild. A good way to start that is to address offensive line, pass rush, defensive line, all that. Really build up the core of your team to build around. I have really knocked the Carolina Panthers pass rush for the entirety of this season. We're going to add AJ Espinenza here, opposite of a developing Brian Burns, and you've got yourself a dynamic pass rushing duo. The size and speed combination to really build this defense around. Number 8, where the Arizona Cardinals are. Cardinals got a lot of needs, and it's going to be tempting here to put CeeDee Lamb here, a big need, back with Kyler Murray, where they had a lot of success. Certainly wouldn't be a bad idea. I think the Cardinals could really benefit here from a desperate team trading up. These receivers starting to slip a little bit, a lot of wide receiver needy teams, and the team trading up is going to be the most desperate team for wide receivers in the entire NFL, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. So we're going to give up a first-round pick, a future first-round pick, to come up and make this trade. Probably a third or fourth round pick in there as well. So Arizona gets value to trade down here. They don't fall too far. They're going to go down to 21. But again, the Eagles are going to trade up here, grab a receiver. It is going to be CeeDee Lamb. Love Jerry Jeudy, but Lamb's going to offer more of a deep threat, a guy that's going to create even more separation. I like both those guys, but I think CeeDee Lamb, we saw how explosive that offense was in the one game Deshaun Jackson did play. And you do have those underneath threats in Ertz and Goddard and now Sanders. So this is going to open up that offense, kind of similar to when the Atlanta Falcons moved up for Julio Jones. Although I don't know if Lamb is quite that level. I don't think he's that far behind either. Number 9, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to have another trade here. I really just went back and forth on a bunch of players and sitting in this GM chair, thought it was the best thing to do. No one made a ton of sense. And I thought there'd still be good players down with a trade. So we're going to go down with the Miami Dolphins, down to 18, and by doing that, you're going to be able to pick up a collection of those picks that the Dolphins have in the second and third round. I don't know if it would be a second and a fourth or something like that, maybe a second and a future second. And a lot of people are thinking this is going to be moving up for Tua Tagovailoa. Nope, we are going to draft another tackle here. This is a massive need. This is the worst offensive line in the NFL. As I said, my number one priority for this Dolphins team, who has wide receivers, who's got Josh Rosen, who I don't know if this team's ready to give up on. Let's put a competent offensive line in there and see what happens with this offense. Flores is going to be able to coach up some defense, and you can get players later with more picks. But we're going to draft Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, and all of a sudden you've got a really, quite frankly, potentially top tackle duo. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns. This one was pretty easy. We're going to take Grant Delpit. Massive need for the Cleveland Browns. They were rolling out Morgan Burnett and a bunch of depth, practice squad kind of guys. Huge need here. Strong safety. Grant Delpit fits that kind of Derwin James, Jamal Adams physical profile of that tall, lengthy safety that can come down to the box, cover, and stop the run. Great fit. Would be probably an A-plus pick here for the Cleveland Browns. And then the Jets at number 11. Again, really easy. Jerry Jeudy here. Darnold finally gets that true number 1 to work with. Jeudy, very similar to like Devontae Adams. Refined route runner. Maybe not the best athlete on the field, but certainly a good one. And can make those tough catches as well. Number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll see if they end up playing in Vegas or if they come back to Oakland for a year. But regardless, they need something fresh at quarterback. And that is where this is going to come in. And it's going to be Jordan Love. Again, guys, the Tua truthers are going to be mad about this. But go check out my quarterback rankings video. You can see all of this stuff explained. But to me, this is a great fit for Jordan Love because it would kind of light a fire under Derek Carr's ass. And I don't know if it would lead to anything amazing there in this season, but Jordan Love would not need to start here. And if Derek Carr played great, there you go. You've got great trade value for Derek Carr to then kind of pull what the Chiefs did in your own division with Patrick Mahomes. Bring Love in the next year. Maybe you finally add a true number 1 wide receiver by then, and you could have the makings of something pretty special. Also imagine a lot of Utah State fans are going to be Las Vegas Raiders fans, just looking geographically. Not that that plays a major role here, but counts for something. So that's the second quarterback, and then we have a third quarterback coming off the board here to the Colts, and again, it's going to be Jake Fromm. Another situation where he doesn't have to play right away. You got Jacoby Brissett. Now, behind this offensive line, I do think that Fromm would probably eventually win this job out, kind of like a Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins situation. We maybe see Jake Fromm week 8, week 9, and I think that's fine. I think Jake Fromm is actually more pro-ready than Jordan Love, so I think there's a great fit for both these quarterbacks. And in Indianapolis, talk about going from worst to first as far as coaching and schematics. You go from Georgia, who likes to run the ball and really did a bad job utilizing Jake Fromm, to Indianapolis, where you've got Frank Reich, excellent play caller, great offensive line. They've got weapons. Paris Campbell and Jake Fromm could work out great. So I love this fit a lot. Number 14, Tampa Bay, Javon Kinlaw. We're going to get a big pass rusher to go next to Vita Vea. I've come around on Vita Vea a little bit as we've gotten further removed from them passing on Derwin James to take him. All of a sudden, you got a dynamic interior duo, 2 guys who can rush the passer. Shaquille Barrett on the edge. I did think about another edge here, but I just think that Kinlaw is the better player, so we're going to go ahead and grab him. Young secondary, good group of linebackers. This could be a sleeper defense next year. The Denver Broncos, number 15. This one was very easy that the pick would be a cornerback. As far as being Kristian Fulton or Trevon Diggs, I haven't completely dove into those guys' tape to know who exactly is better. My gut tells me Trevon Diggs at the moment. Number 16, the Atlanta Falcons. I know I keep saying this, but this one was pretty easy. We're going to go edge here. I mocked them edge a couple times last year. Vic Beasley set to be a free agent, not that he was making an impact anyway, and Takaris McKinley just hasn't reached that level you may have hoped for a former first-round pick. So this is a huge need to get an edge rusher, and we know Atlanta likes speed on that defense, and they are bringing Dan Quinn back, so it should be more of the same. We're going to take Yetur Gross-Matos, really athletic edge defender. And then number 17, again, this was really easy for me. The fit made a ton of sense. Curtis Weaver here. Robert Quinn set to be a free agent. This team could really use a pass rusher other than DeMarcus Lawrence. And what's better than one DeMarcus Lawrence? How about 2? Curtis Weaver coming out of Boise State. Physical comparison is DeMarcus Lawrence. Would have his mentor there and would have a really fun duo there. All right, number 18, where the Jacksonville Jaguars traded down with the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be Isaiah Simmons. A bit of a fall here for Isaiah Simmons, eerily familiar to Derwin James, who fell to the 17th pick in, 2017? The one thing with Isaiah Simmons is, yes, he is a freak athlete, and fans are going to be very excited to land Isaiah Simmons, wherever he ends up. But I do think NFL coaches are going to see him as a bit of a tweener. You know, I had a tweet the other day. He only played about 9% of his snaps as a traditional inside linebacker. So it is a bit of a risk if you're going to take him to be a linebacker. So I think you're going to need a coach that has a plan for Isaiah Simmons. I'm not saying he can't play traditional linebacker. I just think it might lower him a little further than people think. And I do tend to agree with some of that stuff from an NFL perspective. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, who did bring Doug Marrone back, love that Seattle cover 3 system. But they desperately need safety help. And they also have a major question with Telvin Smith, who is a physical comparison to Isaiah Simmons as a linebacker. So you take Isaiah Simmons. If Smith comes back, great. You play Simmons as a safety linebacker hybrid in the Cam Chancellor role where I think he belongs in the NFL. So that would be an outstanding scheme fit. Ironically, I made this pick in my Jacksonville Jaguars rebuild. So I love that fit here for Jacksonville at 18. Number 19, the Raiders are back on the clock. This is the other pick from Khalil Mack. With the 4th pick in last year's draft, I thought they should have gone with Devin White. So we're going to go with another LSU linebacker, Patrick Queen, who I think is going to skyrocket as people watch his tape. This dude, it just flies around the field. And I actually think he's a better coverage player than Devin White was coming out. He doesn't quite have the size, but he's not small by any stretch of the imagination. So the Raiders get a quarterback and a linebacker to really spice up that defense. I think this would be a great first round for the Raiders. I've been critical of their drafting, but this would really spice things up and get me a little more excited about their future. Then number 20, we got the Jags on the clock. Again, we're going to take Kristian Fulton, cornerback, a big need after they traded away Jalen Ramsey. AJ Bouye not getting any younger there, so pretty easy pick there to grab Kristian Fulton. Then number 21, where the Arizona Cardinals traded down with the Eagles. We're going to grab a tackle. It's Austin Jackson out of USC, the type of athlete that can really fit in this West Coast / air raid offense, be a good use on screens, getting outside and stuff. Cliff Kingsbury showed a pretty good ability to get this offense to play above their potential, but to actually get some talent in there to help, I think would maybe allow this offense to open up a little more vertically, as opposed to just asking these guys to block for a second or two. Austin Jackson, the kind of guy that can develop into a real starting caliber tackle. Then number 22, the Buffalo Bills. Thought really hard about Henry Ruggs here. You do have John Brown there. There's going to be teams looking to move up here. So we're going to have a trade here. We're going to get Green Bay's first and second round pick to move down, and the Green Bay Packers are going to take Henry Ruggs. No explanation needed here. This team needs a deep threat. They need someone to take some pressure off of Davante Adams. I think Green Bay is going to be thinking wide receiver all the way. I think they're going to fall in love with the idea of Henry Ruggs, and the second they see an opportunity to move up and get him, I think they make that move. Number 23, the New England Patriots. This is going to be Tua here. I think Patriots fans would be ecstatic about this one. Maybe he sits for a year behind Tom Brady. Maybe Tom Brady's not there. Who knows? Not sure how realistic this one is. I do think there is a possibility in real life that Tua does fall more than people expect because of those injury stuff. But this is going to be the pick here. Tua to the Patriots as Tom Brady's successor. Number 24, the New Orleans Saints. We're going to go with Laviska Shenault. It's a very deep roster, but I think one of their biggest needs is someone else that can catch the ball and make plays as a wide receiver other than Thomas. So we're going to get Laviska Shenault. If it is going to be Drew Brees back here, Chenault's really good at catching slants and run after catch receiver, so it could be a great fit in this offense, but could also help a guy like Teddy Bridgewater produce, or the next quarterback that comes in there. Number 25, the Minnesota Vikings. This one was easy. They need offensive line help, and a good guard in Solomon Kindley is sitting right there, about the right value. Plug him right in there, either replace Klein or Elflein at either guard spot. Moving on, number 26, the Miami Dolphins. So the 4 quarterbacks with first-round grades are gone at this point. Again, I think it's best for this team to just really build up the core. Maybe think about quarterback in a future draft class. You do have Fitz and Rosen there for this year, which I think they can make do. This team's not going to win a Super Bowl next year anyway. So we're going to take Xavier McKinney. Really talented, versatile safety out of Alabama. This guy just pops off the film whenever you watch an Alabama game. So, a little redundant with the pieces you traded away. You trade away Tunsil and take a tackle. You trade away Minka Fitzpatrick. You take another Alabama safety. But you got to, plan for the future. Don't reflect on what happened. I think these are big needs for this team, obviously, because they traded away starters at those positions. So, critical positions, replenishing the talent on this roster. Personally, I think this would be a steal of a draft for the Miami Dolphins and the future of this team. Seattle, they are desperate for tackle help. This team is one of the hardest to predict. They are the hardest team to predict as far as mock draft. You never know what this team's going to do. Personally, they need tackle help. We're going to take a homegrown kid in Trey Adams, who's pretty similar to Caleb McGarry last year, who was kind of on the fence of being a first-round guy. But he looked pretty good when he was out there for the Falcons. Number 28, Baltimore Ravens. Just sitting pat here and getting a steal of a pick. Kenneth Murray just kind of is the guy that falls in this situation. A lot of the teams picking to this point didn't really need linebackers, so the Ravens fill one of their biggest needs and get one of the better players in this entire class. Kenneth Murray would be kind of a dream scenario for them. Not sure it's going to play out that way, but I know Ravens fans are not going to complain about that. Number 29, the Tennessee Titans. This one was a tough one because this is a pretty well-rounded team. The one position that I really thought about them needing help on was the outside linebacker opposite of Harold Landry. And you got Mike Vrabel, who likes to run this kind of, I'm not going to say fully hybrid, it is a 3-4, but there's a guy here in Anfernee Jennings who is the perfect fit for the starting outside linebacker outside of Harold Landry. And he's not going to be a superstar, but this is just a physical guy that's going to fit in with this team. We saw the physicality getting them to the AFC Championship this year, and Anfernee Jennings can stop the run. He can rush the passer a little bit. He's more of a gap control guy, more of a Belichickian, Hightower. Dante Hightower out of Alabama is a great comparison for this guy. So, probably never going to be a superstar. He can drop in coverage as well out of that edge position. So I just think he's a great scheme fit and a great team fit and would just plug in and help this team be better right away. Buffalo at number 30 after trading down. A big reason I did this is because there are big-bodied receivers that I think this Bills team needs a little more than a guy like Henry Ruggs. Obviously, Ruggs would be a great fit with Josh Allen, but like I said, you've got John Brown there. So trading down here, you'd think T. Higgins or Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota, both really good contested catch receivers, could be a great fit with Josh Allen. You got the slot guy in Beasley. You got the deep threat in John Brown, who played great last year. Now you get more of a traditional number one body in T. Higgins. So to trade down, get a second-round pick, and still get a good wide receiver, that's why we made the move with the Bills. And then number 31, this one was one of the harder picks for me, was the Kansas City Chiefs here. I thought pretty hard about C.J. Henderson out of Florida. I honestly don't know if he's going to be an upgrade to the guys they have down there. One of the best players available here was Tyler Biadasz at center. Austin Reeder's fine. He's a good pass blocker, but I do think that getting kind of a franchise center in there could be a nice boost to this offense, kind of solidify the run game a little more. As explosive as the Chiefs' offense is, I do think a little more healthy balance could be good for them for the future. So we're going to grab Tyler Biadasz, and then Reeder can be good depth as an interior swingman. And then the Niners at 32. Again, we'll see if this is how these picks play out this weekend. Just kind of going with who the favorites are. But the 49ers, we're going to end with a surprising sleeper here that I think is going to creep up quite a bit in the pre-draft slide. Call me biased as a local Minnesota boy, but I really do think that Antoine Winfield is going to creep up towards this high second, late first round range. His Minnesota tape, yes, he has injury concerns, but when he's on the field, he reminds me a lot of Eric Berry with his coverage skills, ball skills, and then ability to come up in the box and make a tough tackle as well. So one of the highest rated safeties per PFF, if not the top, a good enough athlete, the son of former Pro Bowl Antoine Winfield, good nickel corner. So we're going to take him, and he's going to replace / compete with Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tart, Marcel Harris. That's probably the weakest part of their defense, especially if they do lose Jimmy Ward in free agency, which I think is a big possibility. So that's the mock draft. I'm really excited to hear from you guys in the comments. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people angry saying, no way this guy falls, you're too low on this guy, all that. Yeah, that's fine. You're able to voice your opinion. I'm more so curious how you feel about the positions I took for your team, the player I grabbed, the scheme fit, all that stuff. Really excited to hear from you guys. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Also, tell your friends about the channel if you think they would enjoy my draft content. Really the best way right there to support the channel is to bring in more viewers. I do have a goal to reach 50,000 followers by the end of draft season. A little bit ambitious, but with a little bit of help from you guys, I think we can reach it. So cheers as always, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the AFC, the conference championship games. Peace.